Zoom
If
rooms.
no one has any objections, you want to wait a few more minutes for John?
Sure, fine.
Sorry to keep our applicant waiting.
It's all right.
We are being live streamed.
Okay, so we're live, we just haven't started the meeting. So we have hot mics, everyone.
Even if they're red? Even if they're red?
Technically,
I thought
they can hear us on other microphones if we're loud enough. Because mine's red and you can all hear
Yeah, but you're loud.
me.
Because he has a loud voice.
They can hear us, yes.
Some people say I don't have a good indoor voice because I'm losing my hearing, but I don't know.
There, my speakers will wear speakers will be a entire week. Years off. You're going to go back.
I think we should go ahead and start.
I just heard the elevator.
Oh, you did? Good.
Well, that's a good sign.
We're walking out. I think it might have just been a random elevator noise. Okay, we've waited 5 minutes. So I'm going to call the meeting to order. If we could have a roll call.
Commissioner Tidmore,
Here.
Commissioner Berry.
Here.
Commissioner Devane,
Here.
Commissioner Flores. Commissioner Boyer is absent and asked to be excused, and Commissioner Young is absent.
Okay, we have in our packet proposed minutes for our meeting of 11/27. Does anybody have any comments? If there's no comments as far as potential changes or additions, Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve minutes as presented.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Oh, there's John. I'll second.
Okay.
Okay.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as presented. Any discussion? John, you can still chime in. We haven't voted on it if you wanted to make any additions or changes. Okay, all in favor of passing the minutes as presented? Aye. Those opposed? None are opposed. Does anybody have any problem with kind of switching up the order and going straight to the application? So we don't keep this gentleman waiting any longer than he needs to.
Oh, that's great. Okay. I don't have any objection.
Okay. I now open the public hearing on application for a certificate of appropriateness file number CA-2023-07. My name is Kurt Tidmore. I am the chairperson for this hearing. The hearing will be conducted in accordance with the Independence Development Code and state law, ORS 197.763. Specifically, the staff will first present the staff report and recommendation. The applicant will then have an opportunity to present the proposal and address any issues raised by the staff report and recommendation. For public testimony, I will first ask to hear from people who would like to speak in favor of the proposal. I will then ask to hear from people who have neutral comments or questions about the proposal, neither for nor against. Finally, those in opposition to the proposal will have an opportunity to present testimony. City staff may then present additional material and recommendations based on that public testimony. The applicant will be given the opportunity to have the last word. After each presentation, I will ask for questions from the commission. If you intend to present oral testimony, please fill out a request to speak form located at the city recorder station. We are recording this hearing, so please also clearly state your name and city of residence when you are called to speak. This will help in preparing accurate written minutes of the hearing and also assist with mailing copies of the decision to interested parties. If you have written testimony or other evidence to submit, please give it to the staff so it can be entered into the record. The commission is required to disclose any conflicts of interest and ex parte contacts that we have with the proposal or applicant. That is, whether we have any financial or other personal interest in the proposal, and whether we have spoken with anybody about the proposal outside of this hearing. Also, commissioners may only participate if they can do so without undue bias, either for or against the application. Do any commissioners wish to make disclosures?
I visited the, excuse me, I visited
Can you turn one?
oh, that's sorry. Okay, I visited the tree this afternoon.
Any other commissioners wish to make any disclosures?
I'm certain I've driven past the tree at some point and living here.
Let's see here. Are there any challenges from the audience as conflicts of interest, ex parte contacts, or bias related to any member of the commission? State law requires me to tell you a number of things at the beginning of the hearing. First, the applicable substantive criteria that apply to this application are contained in the written staff report and will be identified and discussed in the oral staff report. Second, your testimony, arguments, and evidence must be directed toward these criteria or other criteria in the comprehensive plan or development code that you believe apply to this application. ORS 197.763, paragraph 5, subparagraph B. Third, failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the decision maker or other people an opportunity to respond may preclude appeal of the decision on this application based on that issue. ORS 197.763, paragraph 5, subparagraph C. Finally, to the applicant, failure to raise constitutional or other issues relating to proposed conditions of approval with sufficient specificity to allow the city to respond to the issue precludes any action for damages in circuit court. ORS 197.9796, paragraph 3, subparagraph B. We will now hear the staff report.
Thank you very much. My name is Fred Evander. I'm the city planner here at the City of Independence, and I am here to present on the request to remove a tree at 1156 South 6th Street. The tree is a large oak tree that is located north of the historic structure on the property. It recently dropped a large limb onto the north side of the house. You can see that on page 10 of your packet, just sort of getting a sense of the geography there. You can see where the tree branch did impact the north portion of that home there. You can see some of the sort of tarp and whatnot that's on the house at this point. The applicant has submitted an assessment of the tree. The tree assessment does suggest that cabling could be used. The applicant has said that cabling was used previously in the past on the tree, and that he was not aware that there was actually cables in the tree, and that the tree growth just put added weight on those cables to have that failure. The analysis provided by the arborist said, yeah, it could be either pruned or cabled, or it could be removed. The tree would have to be re-inspected though in 2 years, just to make sure that that cabling was sufficient in that time. Given the criteria that you folks have for the removal of historic trees, there's 2 criteria that you folks can consider. A certified arborist has shown that the tree is a hazard, or the tree is causing damage to a commercial or a residential structure, or the proposed removal is necessary for the construction of road structures or other site improvements. Obviously, this one meets the first of those criteria because it has dropped a limb on a neighboring historic structure. And even if the tree is cabled, it is possible that in coming years it could drop another tree on the structure, another limb on the structure. So based on that, my recommendation is that you folks approve the removal of this tree. It is a very nice big tree, but unfortunately sometimes trees and houses don't mix well together. So are there any questions of me?
Any questions for staff? No questions. Does the applicant wish to speak?
Do I need to fill out the form first, or?
I think we have your information on file of the
Okay.
application.
Do I need to push a button?
No.
All right, great. Yes, this tree is rather large, and it was actually given back to us by the city 10 or 12 years ago when they decided not to put a road through that area. And it was cabled, who knows how long before we even purchased the house. My main concern is that I was there with the arborist, and those junctions on that tree do have disease in them. And while they said it could be cabled, the tree person that came out said, based on the report from the arborist, 25 to 50% of the trees height would have to be taken off, and there's no guarantee that that cabling will work. And I'm also concerned about the neighbor's home and the liability that having a cable tree housed on properties next to mine. Not only to the structure that I own, which, as you all know, is a historic home that's been there since the 1900s. The good news is that this tree, the chimney, took the brunt of the damage, so thank goodness there is no structural damage to the house, so I'm happy about that. But while I don't want to take the tree down, I think it's the best thing for everybody to take the tree down. Thank you.
Does any of the commissioners have any questions for the applicant? No questions. Are there any other people in the audience that wish to speak in favor?
Yeah.
When you're done, I'll need you to fill out a speaker's card.
My name's Galen Bonbutter, and I live at, well, just next to that tree on 996th. And see, we've been there 29 years, and I've often wondered if that was, and I've had pictures, nightmares of it coming down onto our house, but it hasn't. But it's a great tree. It's been a great tree, but it probably is time for it to go. I would just suggest that the wood be used. Some of it might be valuable as furniture wood, you know. Oak is not. Is used for that. Some of the bigger pieces might be good for that, rather than have it all just cut up as firewood. I remember years ago at the state hospital, there were like a big storm and 12 or 15 trees, oaks, or not oaks, but walnut, all came down at once. And they sold it off as, you know, they were massive trees, and they sold it off as firewood, where black oak I mean, black walnut is a pretty valuable tree, so that's my only concern, and maybe the sliced off the stump would be some historical value to schools or the local museums, you know, as to how long this tree had been there, got the rings in it and see, something like that, but I'm afraid it has to go too.
Do any commissioners have any questions for the speaker? Okay, is there anyone here that wishes to speak in a neutral position? Doesn't look like there's anybody else in here, so we'll go to negative, and I don't think anybody is here to speak against the proposal. And I don't think there's anything for the applicant to rebut. Okay, so everybody's have all their questions that they want to ask. If there are no objections, the hearing and record is closed. Any objections? Okay. So now we discuss it.
Okay, I think it's a really good arborist report, and that's, in my mind, it makes a lot of difference having the photos, you know, before going out there and looking at it. I was an arborist, certified arborist for many years, and so I speak with trees, right?
That's what I looked at you when I said that's a discussion.
No, but it was really well stated. It's obviously got a big wound. It would always be there. It would always be getting worse. It would just lead to more decay. It would be a matter of having to constantly be worried about it and be evaluating it, pruning it, and adding another cable every so often.
And about 8 of those branches are as big as a single tree in itself. Yeah.
Yeah, the pictures don't quite do it justice.
It's a big tree. Yeah, it's big.
One of the things a lot of times I think it would be worth requiring people to bring in what the cost difference is. As far as, in this case, it's really expensive to do either one. Okay, I'll just, go ahead.
I'm sorry, the hearing's closed.
Well, can you just ask, can I ask him?
No.
No?
That's,
Okay.
the hearing's closed, that's it. I've kind of brought this up before. It probably won't matter, but one day it will, and we need to stick to procedure.
Okay. So I think in most cases, even when someone has an arborist report, and again, this also comes up on issues where it isn't to do with the tree, where it's to do with other maintenance type issues or repairs or whatever. What is the cost of doing it this way, this kind of siding or whatever it may be, or this kind of window versus another type? So in this case, you know, if it was a horrendous amount of money to remove it and 1/10 of that to print and cable it, and then to do that same thing every 2 or 3 years, then I, as a tree lover, would say the prudent thing to do is prune it and cable it every couple of years instead of an enormous removal cost. In this case, it's a whole lot of thousands of dollars either way. You know, so.
I agree with you, that'd be nice to see in the report in the future on other things. In this
Because
case,
you gotta have to get multiple bids anyway.
that's right.
You know, so I think they should submit that with it.
You had something else?
Yeah, the gentleman, the last person that came up brought something up that I thought was interesting. This is a heritage tree, and I don't know if John can tell me. I don't know if this type of tree, you know, has the rings telling the age of the tree.
Yeah, they do.
I don't know if you would be interested, when you cut the tree, if you show that ring.
So I think what you're saying is we might want to make a suggestion with our decision
Yeah.
to get a round cut, which I think we've asked people to do before, and see if either the museum and or,
Okay, well, on that topic, the museum isn't gonna have room for it. But it
that's why I
is,
said and or
some,
some other group.
you know, and it's something where, when a big black walnut did have to get cut down, which happened to be at Natasha's house, and when she found that was gonna be required to do the preservative for that, because you basically have to put it in a big bath for a couple of years, year and a half, 2 years of this preservative. So you have to have like a massive size kid swimming pool type thing.
So it gets pretty,
It
that
becomes
suggestion
real
gets.
expensive just to preserve a piece of wood.
You can't just put some shellac on it and call it in.
You can. It's like left on site. I mean, there's gonna be a big stump there.
Well,
Not quite big enough for
we
an
usually
animal.
require the stump to be ground.
Why? It's not, it's
So you're
not,
right, that's not in the right of
it's
way.
not an infrastructure.
All the
issue.
other ones have been on right of ways, you're right.
Yeah,
Mine wasn't required to be ground, neither one.
this,
That's right. It's been so long since we've had one that wasn't in the right of way. I forgot that we actually only do that when it's in the right of way.
Could be a bit stuff.
Yeah, it could be so. Well, seeing as how the cost involved in something like that, I think if we make a suggestion for the applicant, if we approve it, make a suggestion that they look into, see if anybody wants the round, and certainly not make a requirement.
Yeah, I don't want to put pressure on somebody
Right.
that,
Does that sound like something that everybody
Yeah,
feels
and that's-
comfortable with?
and even the issue of trying to use the wood for something other than firewood. Usually with oaks, there are so many twists and turns to it that it's really hard to get someone that really wants to deal with that. You know, it's not like straight white oak from back east where it's lumber today.
Yeah.
But,
well, anyway, I just thought because it was, you know, one of our heritage trees that we could use it as a educational.
Anybody else have anything to add to the discussion here? I think the feeling I'm getting is we're all pretty much in agreement on this, and the chair will certainly entertain a motion at this point.
Motion to approve the application with the addendum to suggest offering a round to a local historic group. I move to approve the certificate of appropriateness application, file number CA 202307, adopting findings, conditions, and staff recommendations as provided in the staff report. And do I have to add that part about the?
No.
You can add that part that we're gonna add the request that, it's a request, not a requirement.
With request that applicant,
Offer around.
Offer around
historic group.
to any interested group.
okay,
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
You have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Okay, good luck with taking your tree down, it's a big project.
so now that that's closed, what estimates did you get?
It's the same to cable it and cut it down. Chiller side of corrals was at $3,600, but then I have, you know, probably $1,000, $2,000 every 2 years. They have someone come out and look at it.
I tell you, that much cabling too, it's like,
Yeah, it actually, what happened, when it came down, that's where one of the cables snapped.
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I don't know how long ago it was cabled, but
I don't trust the cabling job.
Well, it's just one of these things where you have to have mutually supporting cables.
Right,
yeah.
And then you have this, and then you keep adding. It becomes spaghetti up there.
And the other thing is about that base of that tree, around may not even be available, because when you drilled it. there
If
was
it's
some rock.
hollow, mine was hollow.
Yeah,
So,
but that's normal.
but anyway, I know when we had that big ice storm, Willamette University was looking for rounds, so I can check with them, see if they do.
Oh, that's
Okay.
good.
So, it's not a problem for the tree guy to cut around, so. All right, appreciate you all, thank you. And have a wonderful evening.
You
Happy
also,
holiday.
happy holidays. Okay, so we'll circle back around to the agenda items, staff reports and presentations.
I got nothing, and I would suggest that we hold off on talking about the grant program until next month. Both our consultants for that have said they could attend next month's meeting, but neither of them was available for this one.
Sounds prudent. Does anybody have any problems with that?
Nope.
Does anybody have any new discussion or new information they'd like to bring up?
I do have something that I'd like to say. Regarding the minutes, which are already approved, and that's fine. They're accurate, and that's kind of what makes them unfortunate, is that right at the end of number 8, other discussion and information items, the last 3 words are no action taken, and that's where I have a problem. Like, because we're sitting here, and I know that we are quasi-judicial, all that stuff we talked about last time, but we're essentially judging before we educate. Like I don't even understand that concept as a teacher. I cannot imagine grading my students before I've taught them what they need to know. And so that bothers me. And like it really, I have a hard time sitting here as part of this group if that's how things are gonna go. We have to educate people. We can't keep denying them things that they need or that they're trying to fix to preserve what history we can without educating them. That's huge to me. I mean, teacher. So we need to work on something that will educate our citizens before we go judging them, denying them.
Can you clarify, did you have a problem with the minutes?
The minutes that no action was taken, that, I said right at the beginning, they're accurate, they're fine, like I gave a motion to.
Okay, so the problem wasn't in the minutes, it was the outcome of the meeting.
The problem was that no action was taken. Yeah, not the minutes themselves are completely accurate.
What action would you propose?
We need to figure something out so that we're educating our citizens on preserving history, on what we sit here for, historic preservation. Like we have people come up and then, they talk to, I guess, Fred first, I don't even know. I try to do nothing to my house because I don't want to deal with it. But we have to teach before we can say no, because then it just wastes time and it wastes money for our citizens, and even for Fred, and even for the people who work here in this building, because if we're not teaching them and telling them the process and what the requirements are and what they need to look at and what we're looking at, what we are required to follow, and then we tell them, no, you can't put this other siding on the house, or no, you can't put these windows on the house. Like, I feel like we're judging them before we're educating them. That's unacceptable to me.
I get what you're saying, I understand what you're saying the problem is. And I'm not necessarily in agreement with that, but I'm trying to figure out, is there a course of action you want the commission to consider taking?
Oh, I have a suggestion.
Okay.
Of course I can.
No, I'm glad you said that.
Anyway, can we, what is the charter or the, whatever, to create the Historic Preservation Commission have any part of it in there about what she's talking about, education? In other words, are we only enforcing the code, for instance?
It's in there, it's in the code that we wrote, as a matter of fact, or we approved, that we educate, as we see fit.
Well, okay, so now we're talking about the fifth, here we are, we're right.
Well, that's
We're
what
talking
I'm
about
asking, I mean, to say, okay, it's great to say I'm not happy with this, but until someone presents something as an alternative to whatever is going on, I'm not sure exactly what is being asked.
Well, okay, how about this? For 4th of July, we have a booth down by the river in the park, okay? And we hand out to people for instance, we can hand out to people the criteria that we have right now for windows and that. In other words, we're there as members of the Historic Preservation Commission to answer people's questions. Can we do that? Is that something you could do?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we could do it as long as someone didn't have a proposed application in the process, we could talk to them, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
So then that would be up to someone who works here, Fred, sitting at the booth with us so that we would know, because I don't know every one of my neighbors here who owns a historic home. If someone comes up and asks me a question, I'll answer it.
I think Fred, if we had a booth, Fred could tell us if there was any pending applications before we sat at the booth.
Or we could have a list of pending applications with
Yes.
us, and so we could ask.
So I don't think that,
Are you on this list? If you are, we can't talk to you.
about your project.
Well, yeah, right,
Right.
but we have other people.
What I was getting at is I don't think that we have to have, it'd be great if staff could join us, but
Well-
I'm sure he probably has plans for the 4th, which
Well, he has a family.
involves something other than manning a booth. But
Watch
there's,
for me.
there's 7 of us, and we could probably have two at a time man the booth.
Mhm.
Of course, it's easy for me to say because I.
You're not gonna be.
You're not gonna be here.
But I think that the concept is,
Jennifer and I are gonna have to do it, right?
Well-
That's what it's for.
It's just my birthday, it's fine. I'll go.
And I already man a booth.
okay, so by
But
then you'll probably have at least one more member, possibly 2. And I think that the commission could probably work that out. So I don't think we need to pass any resolution or anything, but can we put that in the works, Fred?
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
Okay, so does that help move us in the direction that you're looking to move to?
I mean, it could, we just had a very brief discussion at a singular meeting, so part of, I mean, if you're gonna write a paper, you're gonna brainstorm on it, you're gonna think on it, and then there's gonna be rough drafts, and then we're gonna finally get down to the paper that we're gonna write, so it's the first time it's brought
Right,
up.
I didn't
It's the first time
suggest it
it's
was
brought
all,
up.
it just, it
Right.
moves the needle the
Well,
correct
all right,
direction
so-
that you want.
at the next meeting, why don't we put it down on the agenda like we have now, that we're gonna
Discuss it again.
keep on discussing it. We have until July. So, I mean, we can do it on every single meeting. Yes?
Now, I'm gonna add something that Fred will probably confirm, okay? But my guess is when someone starts to talk to Fred about an application, it isn't somebody that brings in an application completed. There's probably a lot of discussion prior to the application about.
there typically is, yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
And Fred is an expert at 1, the code, and 2, I would say he's probably an expert on historic preservation, based on what I've seen come out of.
I don't know about that, but I can definitely look up information.
You know where to find it.
Yes.
I've seen you put staff reports together that are indicative of someone that can gather an expert opinion from the materials available. And I guarantee you, without hearing from Fred, that these people get a lot of help during the application process. So it is not like no one's told them anything before they get to an application.
So then how do we get to the point where, and I wasn't here 2 meetings ago, and I will happily admit that, I wasn't here. But my understanding from the last meeting in November was that we had an applicant come in, and from the minutes, it looks like she requested to replace some siding on her home that was not the original material, but appeared in close proximity to the original style, and she was denied, and now she's claiming she's gonna have to sell her house.
If I may,
Yeah, that's fine, I wasn't here.
without looking at my old notes, the way I remember it was, the option we offered was to reuse the historic ones where it was most visible and mattered,
Mhm.
and to use something else in the side or the back or whatever. We offered that as an option, and it became no, it was an all or nothing kind of thing.
My recollection was she didn't want to discuss any kind of middle ground.
Right.
And so we didn't even really go into depth on that. And for the most part, the siding was original, historic, and in good shape, correct? Yeah.
Like I said, I wasn't here, so I had questions about it, you know, but it just sounded on the notes.
And I will say too, that the historic siding that was proposed to be changed was a shiplap siding with a groove in it. And she was proposing that laid flat on the building. And she was proposing to go to a lap siding, different material that would have presented a completely different reveal to this street.
So then, with all that information, how did she even get this far if you, as the expert here in City Hall, like, did you have those discussions with her here, and then if you did,
I had those discussions with her at her property.
okay, so was she just like absolutely not listening, and so she decided to come before the council anyway, and say?
I always try and get an application to you folks that's approvable. And in this instance, I mean, I even tried to say, I tried to get to one side potentially being changed. We went out there, I took, Troy from our building department out there to evaluate the quality of the siding because I'm not a building materials expert myself. Typically, I go out with Jeff Kennedy, who's our building official. He will look at something with me and give me his building expertise. We went out there, both Troy and I looked at the siding. We thought that siding's in relatively good shape for how old it is. In fact, some of it was very new. You could tell that there was a rear addition that was very, very new. And so we said, the siding that you're proposing is gonna completely change the look of this building. It's gonna change how the windows look, including the way the trim around the windows looks. And we would highly recommend you not doing it. We actually think it's gonna save you money because what you're proposing is actually gonna cost more and it's gonna make your building look way different.
I don't think she got there, it was often. My impression was that she didn't hear it, or.
Right, and she had a chance to look at I sent her the staff report like I send everybody the staff report 7 days in advance. So.
The applicant wanted what they wanted, and it was sort of like,
Well, I think.
there was not
And
much.
one of the driving
reaction.
issues too was she was concerned about lead-based paint. I looked into lead-based paint and how the Secretary of Interior guidelines suggest doing it, and no one recommends complete removal of siding to address lead-based paint, especially on a historic structure.
And it adds cost. I know, porch repair, I did it at 15%, just with dealing with materials that have lead-based paint, and I mean, there was hardly anything to deal with, and it still added an additional like $1,500. And it's the fact of life with lead-based paint. But I think Fred did his job on that one too, correctly. It's just,
Well, yeah. It'd be nice if we could educate everybody so we don't have any more of those, you know, in other words, when you go
honestly,
looking at a house.
how many applications since you've been here, Fred, have we turned down? I can't think very many.
Not many.
And I think
And I mean, all of them too, if there has been one, I seem to remember a window one.
they withdrew their application.
I can't quite remember, but I,
One across from the post office.
right.
So,
I was out on that property too, saying the Historic Preservation Commission is going to have a very hard time approving this based on their standards.
so I think the characterization, I think this is why I disagreed with the statement that we're not educating, but we're telling people no. We rarely tell people no. Occasionally, we ask for a little give and take on an application, but that's even rare. Usually by the time we see an application, our staff has educated the applicants and they know what to expect and what they can do and what they can't do. That's my take. It may not be right, but that's my take.
Well, the staff is educating them. What educational aspect does this committee hold?
Well, we just came up with one on 4th of July. And we're gonna brainstorm at the next meeting, and everybody's gonna think about it in the meantime. And so,
We have been doing education with things like videos and whatnot with the
and also with
awards
our
and all of that
our
stuff
grant
to
money,
try and,
grant money, we've had some window seminars.
right, what people going out and talking about.
We don't actually, for us to educate, we don't always have to be present. We're approving things and changing policy so that that education happens. It's not always hands-on, but it can be. And we just came up with a first idea of many, probably, some hands-on. So I think that we've got a real asset with our staff in educating people when they come in on an application. I imagine that you spend hours talking to an applicant, but before it's all in.
To get something to you folks takes a while, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely does.
So. Okay, any other new business?
Oh, I have a question.
Okay,
The lot across the street from the library for us, we approved that, condominium. Has anything happened about that?
No, and there was an article in the Statesman Journal today talking about that project.
No, I don't mean the Celebrate building, I mean the one that's right across
Oh,
the
you're
street on
talking
the
about-
other side of the library.
No, nothing has happened with that either. And I will provide an update. I do know that, Commissioner Flores had asked me about 148 Monmouth Street at some point. You want to show, this was one of those projects where the old structure had a 70s facade on it with the awning that was rotting. And so they took off the awning, they repaired the building on the west, and then they were gonna put a siding on the building on the east. And Karen, can you show, maybe it was like attachment B that I sent you? So this is what they proposed for the project. Right now, there is just siding all the way up the building. I have talked with the owner of that property and I said, what's the deal? You got approved for something with a window. He says the window is on order. I just want to close up the building for right now. So that is the update on that. This is what they're supposed to be moving to, which is a similar window arrangement as the previous building had with some decorative light features and whatnot. So I just wanted to give you a status on that project. We are aware and monitoring that situation, just so everybody knows.
What would it look like before?
What did it look like before? You want to use Google Maps, Karen?
Well,
it's not a non-contributing structure, correct?
It was a non-contributing
Yeah.
structure.
Yeah.
It's not something that we.
No, but it's downtown and it's part of our historic area and
Yeah,
yes, we
it
have
looked,
short-term memory loss and.
yeah, no, it's,
But it just, I'm sorry, Karen.
It's okay.
and the article that you're talking about in the Statesman Journal about the one
Yeah.
on the other side of the
They're putting
library.
Stonehenge back up for sale.
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I've heard.
Yeah.
But they still got an approved
Yes,
application,
okay,
so
yeah.
if whoever
Okay,
they sell it to, they continue.
yeah. All right.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that.
So, and if you go to, view other dates, you can see what it, do you see that there?
Yeah, it was nothing great and wonderful anyways.
Right, yeah.
So, yeah, click on that right there, Karen.
Where do I go?
Oh, is it not good? Does it not pop up, or? I'll make the thing full screen maybe, because maybe it's not full screen.
Try it the August
There you
2023, oh, there, yeah,
Well,
that's cool.
Yeah, so you can see what it used to look like, and
Yeah,
with that facade covering, it was completely, a non-contributing structure when it was evaluated in 1989. There has been some major improvements to the building to the left to make it more contributing in nature.
yeah, it's a lot better.
And I mean, the landowner is trying to do that partially, or the applicant is partially trying to do that to this eastern building. He's just working with a lot harder building. There's just way more holes punched in the side of it, and no sort of coherent window pattern or anything like that.
Looks like it's been modified multiple times.
It looks like it's been modified many times, yes.
Okay, any other conversations? Then I'll declare the meeting adjourned.